This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, also the principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue, and our special guest today, one of the TSO's trustees, that is Saga Shoffner. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us. Did I get your name right, Saga?
You did.
We were talking right before we got on the podcast about your name. Your name is kind of unusual. I've never heard anybody named Saga before.
Well, my parents were interested in naming an adult woman instead of a baby, it turns out. So they were thinking fairly grand, shall I say, which is a little intimidating when you're young. And even later on in life, it's still a little, I'm the only Saga around. So
that's a great name, though.
It is, I have
to say, yeah. Now, you are here just visiting, but we roped you into coming on air, so we thank you for that, Saga, and we're looking forward to your participation today. Well, last week we talked about this Colors concert, which is actually happening this weekend. We talked about the Tuba Concerto of Sam Adler. That is a world premiere that's happening. Also, something very interesting, hence the title Colors for this concert, is that Holly Carr, who is a silk painting artist, is going to be I guess you could say performing. She's going to be painting along with the symphony while they play these wonderful Russian classics for the audience right there on the stage. And Holly's going to be calling in any minute. Where is she now? She's in...
I believe she's in Nova Scotia.
In Nova Scotia.
A part of Canada.
I was going to say, for people who don't know, that is actually in Canada. So she's going to be calling in and telling us how she operates and tell us a little bit about her art. Zach, can you give us a bit of a primer on this?
Sure. So this is one of Alain Trudel's friends, I guess, previous concert partners. And when he was talking about some of his experiences on the stage in Canada, his mention of Holly Carr really stuck with me because you think of different ways to make classical music immersive and relevant. One is that the music in many cases does frame a story. As we got into the Romantic era and the modern era, there was a lot more story inspired as opposed to simply playing around with the musical form, sonata form, and things like that. And when you get to Stravinsky and you get to the Firebird, this is a story. It's a legend. Each movement portrays a different piece of the story. And what Holly does during the performance is paint the Firebird story as the orchestra is playing it. So it kind of reunites the music to the story in a way that might not be evident otherwise. And I love the concept. She'll be painting onto massive silk panels that will probably be behind and aside the orchestra. And she'll be backlit. So what we'll be seeing is really her silhouette painting the Firebird story. And since she's painting on silk, the paint transfers through quite quickly. So she'll be painting from behind, and we'll be seeing the story take shape from in front. So it should be really visually stunning and quite captivating.
Yeah. And will this be on TSO and HD as well? So you get the close-ups?
It will be. So you'll also have probably a camera behind the screens. So you can see a little bit of what she's doing on the other side. So
you get all the magic.
And in many ways, this is coming full circle because about 5 years ago, some might remember that Stefan Sanderling partnered with an artist named Felix de la Concha to perform during a performance of
Mussorgsky's Pictures at an exhibition.
That's right. He made pictures during pictures, and he painted portraits of symphony musicians during the performance. So that was one of the first TSO and HD experiences because the screens were there to really show what he was doing with his paintbrushes on his canvas, since not everybody could see that.
Well, you may hear a little scribbling going on here in the background, and that's because we're trying to emulate what's happening on this Colors concert. Everybody here has a piece of drawing paper and colored pencils, and so during the course of the podcast, we are all tasked with drawing our own picture of whatever it may be. Could be inspired by something in the podcast or something in the concert or just something at all. So at the very end, we're going to get together and everybody's going to, describe their pictures for the listening audience. And we'll also grab a picture with everybody so we can put this on our website and everybody can see that as well. There's Holly. Okay. Hang on. Let me bring her in. Hello? Is this Holly?
Hello. Yes, it is.
Hi.
Is this Brad?
This is Brad. And Merwin is here, and Zach is here.
Hello.
Hello, Holly.
And we also have Saga Shoffner, who is a trustee of TSO. She's sitting in with us today.
Hello there.
Hi, Holly.
So you are up in Nova Scotia, is that correct?
I am indeed.
Yeah, and as we ascertained earlier, that is a part of Canada, right? So,
yes, a remote, beautiful part of Canada.
Yeah, well, that's great. Sounds wonderful. You are performing with the Toledo Symphony. I can say performing, right? It's kind of like performing.
Oh, it absolutely is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I consider it, yeah.
Zach has given us a little bit of a rundown on what it is that you are going to be doing, but I think it'd be nice to hear from you. What do you plan to do with the symphony when you're here?
Well, once I get there, I have these screens that I carry around with me. They're on hinges, so I can make them very large, and I stretch some silk on them. And I actually paint on the backside of the silk so that the color goes through the front where the audience can view it. So I'm more or less a silhouette sometimes just the screen is lit and I'm not. And so you get to watch the painting, and the painting becomes the entertainer, It's sort of, and I paint to rhythm, so to the music. So it's very much in a partnership between the two rather than me doing my own thing back there.
Wow. You've chosen, we've got some very rhythmic music for you to paint to.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I've painted to it before.
Yeah.
And in this case, there's an actual story. It depends on the piece of music I work with, but because there's a story, then I will try to depict elements of the story so that it makes sense. And it's quite fun because, of course, the beautiful Firebird at the end that I'll get to paint in all its glory is a nice conclusion.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of colors in that Firebird, hence the title of the concert, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
So during the course of our little podcast here, what I did for the folks sitting in the studio with me was pass out some drawing paper and some colored pencils. So we're all actually sketching our own pictures right now while we're talking to you.
Oh, fun.
In real time. We're going to try to do this within exactly the same amount of time as the Firebird suite itself. So we're going to totally know exactly what you're going through. It's a perfect analog.
So Holly, this is Zach. I'm fascinated by the concept here, and I know that you have worked with Alain Trudel before. Is that right?
I have, yes, indeed.
And he speaks very highly of you and his previous experiences. So we're very excited to, as he becomes our music director, start working with many of the artists that he's collaborated with in the past, and start to bring some of the greatest hits of his experiences here to Toledo. So I'm very happy that you're one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, me as well. I'm really pleased that he's bringing me there. So I haven't. I've worked with lots of symphonies across Canada and lots of musicians actually around the world, but I've never been to the U.S. to paint. So
really,
my first. I know. I have. This is the first time. So
wow.
I'm looking forward to it.
A couple debuts in this performance. Yeah. How did you get into this, Holly? It's a wonderful specialty, but it's definitely a specialty.
Yeah, I've always been interested in theater, and I build large installations, like 60 feet round, 20 feet high. The people get inside, and I've always had sort of this interest in the theatrical. And one year, I worked with a theater company. We collaborated, and I created in an art gallery, and I created this piece during this live performance. So the audience would come in and sit, and I do a monologue and actually paint the audience. And anyway, it was just this fun sort of thing. And another a man saw me, and he was drawing with the musicians and wasn't feeling well, and said, "Hey, can you fill in for me?" And it was at a conservatory, and I was working with a couple of classical musicians, and I said, "Yes, as long as I can paint on silk, I'm fine. I'll figure it out." So I stretched a 16-foot piece of silk by 8 feet, and I had 8 minutes. And I just winged it and had a wonderful time, and the audience really responded, and I backlit the silk, and when I hit just a little bit of red, I heard the audience gasp, and I thought, wow, I think we have something here. Wow. And then I started working with jazz musicians. I've worked with poets and storytellers, and when it really grew, I had Stuart McLean, who's very famous here in Canada. He's recently passed away. He also toured the States, but he was a famous storyteller, and he worked with a whole band, and he was called Stuart McLean, the Final Cafe. And they took me on a month-long tour across Canada, and we did 26 shows. And he was very popular. And I was seen by a lot of people, and that's how I was introduced to the National Arts Centre Orchestra here in Canada. They saw me and asked me if I'd like to perform with them, and then I just kept playing and having lots of fun. So, yeah.
What was that first piece? What was that first 8-minute venture?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
What was it?
Oh, it was funny because they do a lot of abstract paintings or drawings, and I'm not an abstract artist. I appreciate it, but I'm not. I paint things that are very accessible. I ended up doing these gigantic dragonflies, and they were dripping, and they were just lovely, and they were kind of circling around each other. And that's what I came up with in the 8 minutes, as I was almost leaping to get it done with the dancer who was performing in front of the screen. So, yeah. And every time, everything's, it just depends on who I'm working with. Jazz musicians a lot of times just like to improvise, so I just make up crazy stuff, and it depends on the audience, and it's really fun. It's just it's become a large part of my career, but not only. I have gallery shows, and I build installations, and I illustrate for books. So I do lots of things all with silk, and so I feel like I've been very lucky.
So Holly, I'm very impressed to learn that you do this with classical music, with jazz. How does your approach change based on the genre that you're tackling?
Oh, I really have to think about that. Well, jazz is always improvisation. The musicians I've worked with at some festivals, and it's a little way out there. I have no idea what's going to happen. So a lot of times with classical, there's a flow, and I know the piece of music, so I'm ready for certain highs and lows for my energy and for what I'm going to paint. I try and time things. But with jazz, it was really I had no idea what was going to happen, and luckily it didn't matter what I was painting. So it worked out okay. But I think my favorite actually is to work with orchestras. I love it. I feel like I can't play any instruments. I took piano lessons and everything. I just can't. But I feel like I have an instrument, and when I think of the conductor in the front with the wand, and I think of my brush that way, and I get lost back there, and I'm behind the silk, so I feel a little hidden, and I don't have to be shy, and I just forget. I just get lost in the music. And my very favorite part was when everybody's warming up and I'm getting ready to paint, and you hear the little bits of instruments squeaking and making noise, and I just get excited and look forward to. I feel like I'm one of them, even though I'm obviously not, but I feel like I am. So yeah, it's my way into that world, which is really lovely.
You seem to say that you're kind of hidden. You're not part of it, but you're quite part of it, and in some way you're more exposed than the rest of the orchestra, who can kind of synthesize with their stand partners. You're rather focal, whether you feel it or not.
Not to put on any pressure.
That's right.
No, I am. And oh my gosh, and things can happen. I'm human. It could make an accident. Anything. Luckily, most people don't know I'm painting, so I do something. They just think I did it on purpose.
Do you ever just rip it off and start over? Pull down the next sheet.
There's times I want to. I can't. I started and went. No, I went the wrong way, because there's no erasing. You can't erase on silk, no matter how you work on it. But I think what I'm thinking when I'm hidden, it's the physicality of me. It's my body. It's not. So I don't feel as vulnerable. It's more I'm behind the silk, and so yes, you can, and I can make mistakes, or anything can happen. But that's the wonderful thing about live art. It's not a machine, so who knows what will happen. I think that's the fun part of it.
You can just pull a Bob Ross and, splash something over it and say it's a cloud, right?
Yeah, I could do that for sure.
Yeah.
Like, my biggest fear has always been falling through the screen or something silly. It's never happened. But it's that thing you wake up the nightmare, the thought, what if I just came popping through here or something? But so far, I've been lucky, yeah.
Let's just give the audience the sense that that's a possibility, so we'll get more people coming in just for the, just for
danger of it?
The danger factor.
I'll tell you, I had one accident in all the year, and I've done this hundreds of times, and I was with Stuart McLean, and they had put me on this large riser, and I had always been on sort of a 2-foot one. In this particular case, it was 5 feet off the ground, and I had stairs, and they were lit up because it's dark back there. And so when I turned around to go off to do my exit, and he was still reading, by the way, I fell 5 feet straight off of the riser and crashed into the ground behind the screen. Nobody could see, but they could hear this terrible crash. And he sort of stopped for a minute and then just kept on reading.
Wow.
And all the green room was below, so all of the musicians heard me, and they were terrified of if I was crawling across the stage with a broken limb or something. But I made it, and that was the only time I ever had anything happen. So So hopefully I won't come popping through the screen or fall or anything during this performance.
I'm sure it'll go swimmingly. Holly Carr is a silk painting artist. She's on the phone with us from Nova Scotia. Holly's performing this weekend with the Toledo Symphony. I didn't mention where the concert is. That's at the Toledo Museum of Art, Paris Style. And it's this Saturday, October 20th, 8 o'clock p.m. Elaine Trudell on the podium. We're also going to hear that tuba concerto by Sam Adler, a world premiere. And then these 3 great pieces by Russian artists, also the Firebird Suite. And that's the one that you're painting to, right, Holly?
Yeah, that's the one.
Can I ask your favorite color?
Red.
Oh, my favorite color is red, too. We're doing this color test. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind if you want to hang on for a minute while I go through everybody's favorite colors here.
Sure.
So red, the color test says people who like red. That would be you and I, Holly. Anybody else here choose red? No? Nobody else chose red? Here's what it says about red. Those who love red live life to the fullest and are tenacious and determined in their endeavors. Do you agree with that?
Oh, my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Red all the way. Yeah. What about you?
I'll take it.
Okay.
I think that works. Merwin, what was your favorite color?
It's kind of a bluish purple.
It's purple.
Yeah.
Purple, yeah. You are, well, this is good for you, Merwin. You are artistic and unique. Whoa, I didn't read this part. You have a great respect for people, but at times can be arrogant.
Oh,
that works.
My.
Let's hear, what's your favorite color, Zach?
I went with kind of a candy green.
Okay, well, that would be green.
And I should say I have green as well.
Oh, okay, so the last 2 folks here are green. Here we go. This is green. Those who love the color green are often affectionate, loyal, and frank. Green lovers are also aware of what others think of them and consider their reputation very important. Would you agree with that?
Well, that certainly fits with living up to the name Saga, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I love that.
Yes, indeed.
I love that. That's really interesting. Holly, tell us, I wanted to ask you about this before, but we never got into it. Tell us a little bit about the difference between painting on silk and painting on canvas, because you work with silk. What are the qualities of that medium?
Yeah, they're very different. I started out when I was in art college. I started out with canvas. First of all, you can't make any mistakes. There's no do-overs on canvas. You can scrape it off and you can just repaint or paint on top of it. You have one shot with silk, and if you muddy it in any way, if your colors aren't fresh, if things drip or they pour it, it's kind of a disaster. Now, the only thing that it's such a beautiful fabric or medium that even disasters can look beautiful, so that's helpful. But no, they're very, very similar. I would say similar to watercolor, the closest I would say. But the translucency of the silk and the way it moves, and I really love that when I'm painting. People will notice that my silk will wiggle and wave and make movements with the music, which I like. It adds to me. It adds to the performance element, and especially if I work on a large piece, if I hit one side, the whole silk will ripple down, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So that's also to me another added element that I think works with a performance. But yeah, and we can backlight it, which is fantastic.
Well, I was going to say it captures light in a completely different way than canvas does, right?
Oh, it's like stained glass. It really looks like stained glass.
Yeah. I'm sitting here watching Zach and Merwin. Saga and I finished a long time ago with our pictures. She drew 2 pictures. Wow, those look really good. Yeah. You have a bird and a horse, right? A fire horse and a firebird.
Like a dragon type.
A dragon. Well, that's a fire horse, right? Dragon is a fire horse. Merwin, are you finished with yours?
I'm all set.
Okay, turn around. Let's take a look at it. I want you to describe what this is. Pretend like we're on, a cooking show, and you're like, I have made for you. Just do a description for us.
Well, in honor of our guest, is a stylized Canadian flag with a maple leaf designed to look like a firebird feather. There's a backlit eye, and emanating like smoke from a Tim Hortons coffee cup are some smoke birds.
And we should add that, of course, you use Tim Hortons coffee as part of the
it's part of
the medium there.
There's also a donut and a car with a Holly insignia on it.
And there's a little creature.
Yeah, tell us about the creature.
It's a beaver. When I was 10 or 11, the only time I ever really kind of was dabbling in art for public consumption was a pseudo-political cartoon for my school newspaper, and all the characters were beavers, and I made fun of Canadian politics.
Wow. I can definitely see the purple coming out in you there. Artistic and unique. Zach, why don't you hold yours up and give us a little description?
Well, I tend to doodle, so this is really just doodles. So I started making these little color blocks. You were trying to have us react to the podcast, so I thought that we often have frames of discussion points, and we move through them, hopefully in a way that's not quite obvious to our listeners. And that's what was going on in these different color blocks. And at the top, I did this sort of left to right thing, which looks a lot like your computer, which started with a lot of noise, and then it moves into a Firebird.
Interesting.
And then down below, I just started making a Birdman.
Yeah, I see that.
Complex.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to see that in my nightmares tonight, as a matter of fact. The Birdman.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you have a quilt above the Birdman. The Birdman is,
Yeah, they're really intended to be separate. I'll sell this at an auction someday, and it will shred.
Exactly. Right. Saga, you made the dragon horse, or the fire dragon.
Well, initially it did start out trying to be a dragon and then turned into more like a horse. So you're right. And then once I had lots of color going on with that, then I moved into a separate page and drew more of a bird type in flight with, again, lots of colors and trailing wings.
Well, your drawing has a lot of motion to it because you have these long curved lines of color and all the colors layering on top of each other, and the wings and the long neck and the head and the crest.
The strokes are very different
They are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
you definitely have a
your
style.
Firebird has eyelashes. I'm assuming that she's a girl.
Yes, I was definitely interested in the eyes on both of these creatures.
It's beautiful. I am not much of an artist. I basically just drew a second grade version of a bird with a big F on his chest. Flying over a bunch of stick people running away, saying help, and then off in the corner there's a little Igor Stravinsky laughing maniacally. See him down there in the
What is the bird saying though, Brad? I see some words.
Squaw, squaw.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a Firebird call.
Gotcha.
If you didn't know,
I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm remembering as I'm looking at these that there was actually a visualization of the Firebird story in the Fantasia that they did in, was it Fantasia 2000? Do you guys remember this?
Oh yeah,
I think there was a deer.
I remember
right?
2000. Yeah.
A long time ago. No, but there was a pretty amazing representation of the Firebird story in art aligned to music. So, it's kind of appropriate that we're revisiting this now, 18 years later.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we have enough time to do one more quiz, and while we're talking about the Firebird, Holly, you want to stay with us for this quiz?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This quiz is called Bird or No Bird. So what I have here, I spent probably an hour and a half agonizing over the title of Bird or No Bird.
My answer
trying
is
to figure it out. Yeah.
C, Larry Bird.
Let me pull up our little background music for that. Okay. This is called Bird or No Bird. I've got 12 different birds, and some of them are real birds and some of them are fake birds, and you have to tell me if it's a bird or if it's no bird.
Just to clarify, it's a made-up bird means one that you made up or that would only exist
it's
in
one that
mythology.
actually exists in mythology.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you can say that's no bird, or you can say that's
bird.
a bird.
Yep.
Right? Okay, here's the first one. Caladrius. Anybody want to jump in?
Can you use it in a sentence, please?
This Caladrius is possibly a bird, but it might be no bird.
I think no bird.
No bird?
No bird.
It sounds
You're right.
It sounds more like a container.
Good job, Saga. You're up one.
Yeah,
That's
Saga
from Roman mythology, a white bird with healing powers. Okay, a cockatrice.
Bird.
Bird.
That's a bird.
That actually is a mythical beast bird. It's a two-legged dragon or serpent-like creature with a rooster's head. That comes from English legend.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So that was incorrect. Devil bird. What is a devil bird?
That's a bird.
Is that a bird or a no bird? That's actually a no bird.
Another
it's
no bird.
It's Sri Lankan mythology. Its shrieks predict death, sort of like a banshee bird.
Interesting.
They call it the devil bird. How about the giant ibis?
Oh, that is
a
bird.
bird.
That's a bird.
Yeah.
That is a bird. That is
One of my daughter's
Cambodia's
favorite birds. I don't know why.
Really?
So.
Yeah.
Wow. How about the golden pheasant?
Also a bird.
That's a bird.
That is a bird. It comes from western China. How about a jatayu or jatayu?
How do you spell it?
Jatayu.
That didn't help me at all.
A jatayu.
I think it's a bird.
You think it's a bird?
I'm going to say not bird, just to add some drama.
What do you say, Merwin? You want the third choice or
I'm going to go with Larry Bird, yes.
Larry Bird? Okay. It is actually a mythological bird. It comes from Hindu mythology. Okay, these are all, as I mentioned, in alphabetical order. So, purple-winged ground dove. Is that
That's a bird.
It sounds like a reasonable bird.
I'm with Holly. That's
a
bird.
real bird.
Yeah.
It's from the Atlantic forest in southeastern Brazil. How about the quetzal? Quetzal.
That's
That
a bird.
is a real bird.
That's a bird.
Yes.
It's a bird.
It was also my
indeed.
best scoring Scrabble word ever.
And one of the only words that rhymes with pretzel if you're writing a song. Just saying.
Quetzal, pretzel.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the last one. The Wolpertinger.
Gotta be.
I would say bird.
You say yes?
Yes.
I think a bird.
No.
Bird.
It's not a bird.
Made it up.
Actually,
laid
it's
an
the name
egg.
of the man who lives across the street from me.
Now, this thing, it looks exactly what it sounds like. It's called a Wolpertinger, or in German, a Wolpertinger, and it's comes from German folklore. It's a creature with the head of a rabbit, the body of a squirrel, the antlers of a deer, and the wings, and occasionally the legs of a pheasant.
So this is like the German jackalope.
That's what I was
Yeah.
saying, jackalope.
So it sort of qualifies as a bird, right?
So is it a bird in Germany?
Say that again.
Is it a bird in Germany?
I'm bringing out these little stingers that I have here. We do have
So
the
if I
bumblebee.
do it again, we're going to get to the tonic, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Maybe.
There it
That's
is,
close, yeah. You know what a stinger is? It's like a little... it sounds like a sting, right? An audio sting.
Walking in fields of gold.
Holly, I didn't warn you, but I have this little soundboard here that can play different sounds.
And he
right?
was so restrained through the
Yeah.
first 20 minutes of
I
the...
wish I had one.
Yeah, maybe we can hook you up with a soundboard while you're painting, and every once in a
have a
while...
soundboard.
Add a whole other element. That'd be fun.
You can just reach over and kick it with your foot, and or kick Merwin, and Merwin will scream. We're just about out of time, but I do want to say the concert is this Saturday, 8 o'clock p.m. at the Toledo Museum of Art Paris Style. Elaine Trudell on the podium, David Saltzman, tubist, playing the world premiere of the Sam Adler Tuba Concerto, and of course, Holly Carr, with whom we've been speaking today, will be painting on silk, a wonderful performance to Stravinsky's Suite, the Firebird. So, Holly, thank you for joining us so much, and we look forward to having you here in Toledo.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
This has been Toledo Symphony Lab. It's a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website. That's at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. I also want to thank Zach Vassar and Merwin Siu and our special guest, Saga Shoffner from the TSO Board of Directors. Thank you for joining us as well. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at ToledoSymphony.com. I'm Brad Cresswell, and you've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab here on FM 91.